Welcome to Coach, Real Talk with Anna and Grisel. We are two coaches who started off as accountability buddies, and from there, a beautiful friendship has blossomed. A friendship where we emotionally support each other, we share insights related to our areas of expertise in work-life balance and in burnout, and we discuss new knowledge about all the things that help us to grow our respective businesses. In this episode, we'll discuss why giving ourselves the time and space to step away from our business not only benefits us, but it benefits the clients that we serve. We talk about the creep of limiting beliefs in everyday situations, an introduction to the both of us as humans and as professionals in our areas of expertise, burnout and work-life fulfillment, our why as individuals and the work that we do to make the world a better place, and an invitation to you, a fellow business owner navigating the twists and turns of growing your own coaching business. I hope you'll sit back, relax, and join us in our very candid conversation in this inaugural video. Thank you. I already had a busy morning. I met one of my former clients out for breakfast this morning. It was really nice to see her. And then I stopped by Home Depot on my way home. Yep, because I'm working on a lot of home projects because I have people coming over for Thanksgiving. So I want to give the house a refresh. I have a friend coming over next weekend. So I'm pushing and I'm getting a lot of really good things done.
Good.
Really good. So it just came off of a 4-day weekend. I gave myself Friday through Monday, right? My body heard me talking about how I needed a 4-day weekend, and my body was like, you know what you're doing? You're just going blah, 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 right? You ain't going to take no dang 4-day weekend. But we're going to make sure that you take a 4-day weekend, because guess what? You're going to get sick on Friday. I got sick. Yeah, it started Thursday night. I was like sneezing, and I felt congested, but it was okay, Friday, I woke up. No, Thursday. It was Thursday. It was Wednesday night when it started. Wednesday night, I was sneezing. Thursday, got up, had a meeting at 10:30. By like 1 o'clock, I start sneezing again. And I was fine in the morning until I started sneezing. I started sneezing and I just couldn't stop. And it just went downhill from there. And you and I were working on creating, the stuff for this new channel.
Yes.
Coach to Coach Real Talk. We were working on that. And then I fell off of the face of the map because I was like, I need to go lay down or something, because I had people scheduled for the rest of the afternoon, but I had like a 2-hour window of time. And I was like, I just need to lay down. And I went downhill from there. It was so bad. And luckily those 2 appointments in the afternoon canceled.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah. So I needed that. I started drinking like, the next morning I woke up horribly. Like I spent all day in bed on Friday, all day. I had no energy. My face hurt so bad. Like it felt like someone was trying to push a bowling ball through my nose.
Oh.
It hurt so much. I had made these inhalations with Epsom salt and eucalyptus, and I put the towel over my head and I did that. It felt so much better. There was just water running out of my nose, and it felt better, but like 10 minutes later, the pressure started building again. I took a really long hot shower. That helped, but the pressure started building again. So I made a really strong ginger tea.
Oh, did that help?
Yeah, on Saturday, it was like nothing ever happened.
Nice.
Yeah. So we just this weekend we're putting up shelves, we were hanging plants from the ceilings, we're working outside on the garden. And yeah, so I've been doing that up until maybe like 10 minutes before you and I met. Like I said, I met with my client this morning for breakfast, so I'm like easing back into work mode, but didn't realize just how much I needed that time off.
Yeah. Well, and our bodies will tell us. I mean, I think that your mind was like catching up, like, okay, I feel really tired, but obviously your body was like, we've been tired longer than what we feel like. Um, if I would have realized that you were like sick and not like having like an allergy thing, I would have I have this like magic soup, I call it. And I swear it's like a cure-all. Every time like Jay or the boys get sick, I'll make it. And like we I never get sick, and then they are over it, kind of like with what your ginger tea did. So if ever you want me to send that to you, I'd be happy to.
Do you
Magic
remember
soup.
magic soup? Do you remember what's in it?
Yeah, it has like turmeric and chicken broth and onion and garlic and ginger. When you said ginger tea, that's what made me think of it. And then what else is it? Carrots and celery and I think and then some herbs, but it's
Mm.
really, really and then lemongrass. Like it's really yummy. Yeah.
I need the recipe to that magic soup.
Okay. I'll send it to you. I'll Voxer it to you later.
Okay, I'm all about that. I'm all
Yeah.
about it. In
I
fact, I got some. I went to the Asian market and I got some beautiful big fat ginger. Like it looks like a hand. It's like a big old fat piece of ginger with really nice fingers. And I got some lemongrass and I put it in some water and I put it on my sunny window. Like I have a window now in my living room that is the little nursery, right? And the lemongrass is already starting to grow tops. Like I chopped off the top and I put it in water and it's already starting to grow. So yeah, I'm all about that. Turmeric, I love it.
Yeah, so good.
Anti-inflammatory and the ginger with its all of its wonderful benefits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how about you? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was just really busy. We did my dad's birthday, and then that was Saturday, and then Sunday, just church, and then tried to hang out. We went to an open house, but it just wasn't the one. And then yesterday the boys had like a field trip all day. Like I was up at 6, and then we didn't get home till like 5 p.m. And so Jay had to come home and let the dogs in and out. Thankfully, he was able to do that. And then today was like another early morning. And in the meantime, I've been trying to connect with that client for the work and
Bahara?
yeah. And so he and I finally connected. We have a call on Wednesday, so I'm excited about that. And anyway, but yesterday was just crazy because the field trip that we went on was like it's called the Oregon Gardens and it's out in Silverton, but it was an outdoor field trip and we had like rain and wind and all this like crazy weather. And really it was okay though. I mean, for us having a whole day outside, we didn't get drenched. Like the boys' shoes got wet because I think they worked for that, but um it was fine. It was just a very long day. And then this morning I went to my Invisalign. I had my last I was supposed to have only like, I don't know, like maybe 10 remaining trays. So in theory, I should have been done in like the end of January, early February, right? But I went there and because I've had these on for over like a year and a half, I think. So by the time they're done, it will be like a little shy, like 3 months shy of 2 years. And so anyway, when I went and I was, how you like Google, like, let me try to guess, like, how many will my last set be? Like, how many trays, right? How many weeks? Because for the way that my, what do they call it? They call it my program or whatever, is like every week I change. Some people are like every 2 weeks, but for the way they have me, it's every week I change my trays. And so, like, 10 trays is like 10 weeks, right? And so I've been like, okay, let me try to calculate like worst case, best case. I'm like thinking like between 5 weeks and like, I don't know, 10, right? I go there and they're like, oh, here's your new set. And they have to like take buttons off and put buttons on. And I'm like, well, how many do I have? And the lady said 20. And I'm like, what? That's like 5 months almost. So I was like, kind of like, I'm trying not to curse, but I was like, what kind of shit is this? That's what I asked her. And she kind of laughed. And I was like, but you know what? Like, I feel like we work really hard on things, right? And we stay really committed to it and we do our due diligence. And then when things don't come as soon as we expect, right? It feels really deflating. And at first, I was kind of in a funk for like, because then they have to lay there and like, I'm like, they're in my mouth and they're like ranking my like jaw. My jaw is sore, which is why I didn't get a chance to wash my hair this morning. So I just did it before I got on the call with you because I needed to, because you know how I don't wash it besides like once a week. So when it's time, it's time. But anyway, I'm like laying there, they're hurting my jaw. I'm like, just like not feeling very happy inside. And I just keep thinking like, this is ridiculous. Like I do it right. I stay committed. Did they mess up? Like, then you start getting kind of like, well, how come it didn't? So I asked the lady, I said, so what's the change? Because there's two like partners like this, the main guy who is the guy who does the initial programming for projection of how long everything will take and then checks in with you, but then there's this other woman who I think she's just as knowledgeable, but I think it's mainly his practices because he's got a few different locations. And so she was like, I said to her, I'm like, why, what happened? Like I thought I was supposed to be done in January or at the latest like early February. And she goes, they're moving this one tooth like turned. And I'm like, well, did it turn because of the way that, because Invisalign's like a computer that basically gives the scans and stuff. So it's not really high human touch. I mean, I think the ortho will like look and try and like help predict how like the best treatment plan for the goal. But anyway, so I was like, well, if my tooth is turned, which you can't tell it is, I'm like, and I've been doing everything right. Did the treatment that you guys have me on like turn the tooth? And she said, no, you can only do the best you can with Invisalign. She said with braces, it's different because they see you with their naked eye like regularly and they can manipulate as needed, right? But with Invisalign, because it's an outsourced place that creates all the retainers, you're kind of at the mercy of the process. And so I said, well, I really thought like, I was going to be done in January. Like, why so much longer? And she said, well, so our the main guy is very particular and he has I guess, an idea of like really how he wants a person's mouth to look. And so she said, he's a perfectionist basically. And he's done something that he saw that was going to, I guess the end result wasn't what he intended or what he committed to me. I'm not sure. And he's a nice gentleman. I'm not mad or anything. I mean, I'm not mad anymore. I was like upset at first. My whole point in this whole story. And she was like, if you're done by like the 20th because the 25th of March is when they'll all come off. She's like, when you're done, if you're done, tell him you're done. Like at that point in time, because it's been so long, if he's like, let's do one more refinement. And she's like, but you're like, no, I'm done. You can tell him you're done because you've done the work and everything's pretty much good. It's just that he has this idea, right? And so as I was driving home, I felt like, those limiting beliefs that we've talked about in so many ways that like will like surface when we least expect them. So, we always are like, okay, we're going to speak affirmations. We're going to think, positively about our business and our life and our health and just everything that we're doing. And then you think, well, if we speak it into existence, then it comes, right? Like it manifests, like it happens, like God delivers or whatever, right? But then we have these moments where in real life, we find these moments where we're like, well, I'm doing everything right, but I'm at the mercy of a process, right? And I have to surrender to the process. And so it's the same with our business. I was thinking about this morning, like while we're trying to grow our business, even when we're taking all the right steps and we're taking action every day, or when we give ourselves, because sometimes action is no action at all, like giving our body and mind rest, right? And that will help us much more in the future than trying to push and burn out, right? So I thought, first I was feeling like, ooh, this always happens to me. Like, this is where my limiting beliefs are. That's when I was like, whoa, that is interesting because they're sneaky. The limiting beliefs can all of a sudden come up where you're like, and I think it's when we least expect it, right? And so then I thought, you know what, though, how many times have we heard that the time delay can serve us, right? Because then when we're really ready to fall in and go full speed and everything comes in alignment, we've learned number one, we can trust that like the end result will be much better than where it is right now. Number two, like when we get really busy, for you, you learned and cherished or, were committed to the fact that your health is much more important than any kind of monetary value of what we could ever gain. And so it's so important that you took this time this weekend, right? And you honored yourself and you were like, I'm not going to stress out about not going to work. And I know it's funny because I purposely was like, I'm not going to touch base with her Monday or Friday or Monday, because I don't want her to feel like, let me just look at this email really fast. And it was funny because I really felt like, I know you're a worker bee and so am I. And I felt like if there's any temptation, you're gonna just check into the email or to your business. And your body was like, no. And so I think that once we hit it and we're like just full on thriving, we're going to have these moments of, wisdom that we've gained this weekend. And for me today, which was honor yourself, take care of yourself, and know that you got to put your health in front of everything else. And for me, it's like, just because the timing isn't right is when I expect it, doesn't mean it won't happen. It's still
Exactly.
going to happen. It's still going to get there. We have to just surrender to the fact that we still show up, we still try, and we still just keep going forward. And even when we have moments of limiting beliefs, recognize them and try and shatter them so we can be liberated from them.
Well, it's interesting. Well, first of all, when you said about the temptation, so I tried to eliminate that temptation by putting my phone on the charger and I just left it. Like,
Good.
I didn't wear my Apple Watch, so I wasn't being notified whenever I was getting a text or a notification on social media. I didn't wear my watch all weekend and my phone was somewhere else. I don't know where it was, out of sight, right?
Good.
Which I needed. But the other thing was, to your point, I realized that that I need more 4-day weekends. I need more 4-day weekends, right? Because it was like magic what it's done for me. And I will take a 4-day weekend every once in a while. If there's a trip or if somebody's coming into town or whatever, I'll do it. And I'm like, I got to move everything out of the way because I got to make time for this. And that's not the way that I want to live my life. That doesn't serve me, right? Like, I need to be, not only is my health important because of everything that I've gone through physically with my health, but also the nature of our work, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have to be well, like, speaking strictly about work, I have to be well in order to help my clients to be well.
That's
I
right.
best serve them when I am taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes taking care of myself is just being away from all social media, all computers, phone, like just being by myself. I didn't realize, speaking of being worker bee, okay? Because remember I mentioned we have Thanksgiving, we have everybody coming over for Thanksgiving. I got a friend coming over next weekend, and my husband was like, we have to get this house in order. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, the house is a mess. Your office is, everything's in it. We got to organize your office. We got to all this stuff. And I was like, looking around, I was like, the house isn't a mess. The house is clean. I mean, there's a couple things out of place, but we just put them back into place. We dust, we do the floors, we're good. That was me on like Thursday,
Okay.
Okay. So as the weekend passed, and especially when we got to like Sunday night and Monday, yesterday was, I worked the hardest here at my house yesterday. Okay. Because it was like, I live and work here at home, right? I'm home alone all day. I'm like putting laundry in and out. I'm like prepping dinner, like in between working. I'm doing those things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I hadn't really like stopped to look at the house. And I realized that I was sucked in a little too far down the rabbit hole with work, and I wasn't really taking care of my house. So it was almost like, I was talking to my friend this morning at breakfast, and she was like, yeah, it's like that moment, like almost like the goggles came off and you saw the house, you saw the office. Because I walked into my office yesterday and I was like, yeah, he's right. Papers and books everywhere. This looks organized, but the rest of it is like, there's stuff everywhere. To me, it's organized. To me, it makes sense. But anybody else looking at this, which whatever, but it was like I was looking at it with new eyes. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's right. And I had these brilliant ideas for how to reorganize stuff to maximize space,
Nice.
to make it just to like declutter, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not necessarily getting rid of all my stuff, because all the stuff that I have here is stuff that I use and need,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Right.
But like, how can I make better use of my space so that it's more organized, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that this morning after breakfast I was working on that. And like, and the rest of my house, like I reorganized all of the closets in my house yesterday. The point is that I realized, okay, yeah, like worker bee definitely happens. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really like taking enough time away for myself, for my house, for my life. I take little bits of time here and there, little bits, but I also need a good chunk of time
Yeah.
every once in a while. I need a good chunk of time every once in a while. And I'm decided at least at least a 3-day weekend. Like that's going to be my norm. I'm going to reorganize my schedule
Yeah.
where I can have a 3-day weekend every week.
I love that. Do
Yeah.
you know if you're going to pick a Friday or a Monday? Like which?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe Friday. It might be Friday. I don't know. But I'll start there and then eventually it'll become Friday and Monday.
Yeah.
You
Right. That's
know?
the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like, and it's what you're saying. Like we work really hard. We're diligent. We're doing all the right things, you know, to make our business grow so we can expand our reach and help more people. But there has to be a sense of balance.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be, and we it's sneaky, like you said,
Yes.
because we're
I
not
can't
always
believe
paying
it.
attention.
Yeah.
We're not always paying attention to that
Yeah.
until things get so far off balance that we kind of like snap out of it, like in my case, my body's really good about telling me when I've taken it too far, when I've taken it to the limit, and then my body's like, hold up, we gotta have an allergy thing or something to slow your ass
Yeah.
down. And
That's
it shouldn't
right.
have to come to that. It shouldn't have to.
No, no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. We should be able to work with such fluidity and ease and balance that we're even in the slightest shift of like something's off or begins to be outweighed by another, that we immediately feel like, wait a minute, what is that? What's happening? Because if we're not living in that kind of mentality, then we're really not present, and that's the other piece that we always be striving for, is being present with everything that we're doing. And in turn, we're serving our clients to the best that we can because we're completely engaged and present with them. And if we can take those, that, I mean, it's a hyper focus, but if we can take that and integrate it throughout our day so that we can check in with our bodies or even our surroundings, it will really serve us. And I think you're right. That is the goal. The goal isn't to work ourselves to a point of where we're unwell or that we're feeling like we don't even appreciate what we're doing. I mean, we've talked so much about this. Is your passion is to help the people in your industry and help them thrive and find that balance and find that joy. And my passion is to help people prevent or navigate and overcome the burnout that they're experiencing, because neither the person, your clients, nor mine, they're not living their best lives. And if we're not all here living our best lives, then we're missing the mark by a
Yep,
lot,
for
including us,
sure.
you
For
know?
sure. For sure. So I wanted to just invite you to share a little bit about the work that you're doing for people that don't know us and they're meeting
Yeah.
us possibly for the first time. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Okay. So I think that's great. So I am a professional burnout specialist. Usually I say all this without my retainers in, but since it's a new set, I've got to have them in. And then I help professional people, as you know, avoid, navigate, and overcome burnout in their professional lives. And then I do workshops for companies to help them create the awareness about burnout. And I'm a mother of twins, and I'm married. got 2 dogs. And I just feel like my life's work is to be this professional burnout specialist for people, and eventually is, be a motivational speaker about this, because it's such a hot topic that will never go away. And I don't say that with ego, and I don't say that with any kind of vanity. It's the way of the world. I mean, the world that we live in is so demanding that unless we were living in a different country without any kind of media or any kind of social pressures, I mean, I don't know where we'd find that, but we're going to all go through it all the time. And it's just such an important thing to be aware of, because we've talked about how much it can look like, and I'm not minimizing this, but it can manifest and look like depression and anxiety and really dark thoughts. And a lot of times, a lot of my clients, they'll come to me and say, well, my doctors either, one, couldn't find anything wrong with me, or two, they put me on anxiety medicine, it's not helping. Three, they kind of dosed me. I thought I was maybe depressed, but it's the medicine, none of it's helping. So you're my last stop. But the thing is if we don't try to be aware of what burnout can do, and I'm not saying that those things don't happen. I know that those are 100% real challenges that people face. But when it comes to the difference of being burnt out, because those are all symptoms of burnout as well, versus is that true? Is that really what's happening? And oftentimes we know by working with our medical professionals, and when they're prescribing something that's not quite fixing the issue, that's when people come to me and say, nothing's working. So, I'm going to try to work with you. And as you know, I have 100% success rate, and I don't ever tell anyone to get off their medicine. I never try to, go against any medical professional's advice or, journey with my client. But what I'm saying is we do help them overcome the burnout, because the work I do is so intimate and intense with just the healing of that person, that burnout can really take a person's life. I think we've talked about that too. At the end of the day, the farthest worst case scenario of burnout left untreated is that self-harm can happen, and it has happened. So that's my passion. That's why I love it so much. And then share with us about you, though, because I know that you work in the same kind of scope, but it's more defined and specialized work.
Yeah, well, first of all, before I get into all that, I just want to say how incredibly helpful you have been to me, because even though my crux is working, right? Like that's where I just go down a rabbit hole, because I love my work so much as a career coach. I mean, I love talking about careers. I love helping people navigate their careers. I love helping people strategize in their careers so that they can live the life that they want, right? Like ultimately, that's what I'm here to help people do, to live the life that they want to be living. And the lever that I help them pull on is their career. So I'm a career coach. That's the easy way to say it. But really, I'm a career and work-life fulfillment strategist. I help people feel fulfilled and successful in their career so that they can make the most of this one life that we get to live on this planet. That's my calling. That's my gift. That's what I'm here to do. And I love it so much. Part of the reason why I love it so much is because I'm a career-oriented person myself. And I gain some tremendous momentum when I'm working. So much so that my office can look like a bomb went off inside of here. And I don't even notice it, because I'm right here. I'm focused on this right here, right? But all that said, like, I help people to feel fulfilled in their careers, and I help them to create strategic plans for their career so they can continue to grow in their success, to grow their level of fulfillment with their career, to grow the level of impact that they're able to make in the world through their work, which also contributes to fulfillment. That's what I'm here to do, and I love that. But even I get burnt out. And that burnout doesn't come from a dissatisfaction in my career. It doesn't come from dissatisfaction in my life, because every day I feel like, a little bit of the puzzle comes more into place, right? In my life. Every day that happens. But what happens also is that I tend to get very, I don't know, excited, passionate about the things that I'm doing, and don't realize when I need to like take a step back and do some other things to take care of myself. So this topic of burnout, like you said, is not something that's ever going to go away, because even when things are going well, you know, for those of us that are actively and incredibly intentional about making choices so that our life goes well, right? So that our relationships are healthy, so that we're healthy, so that, you know, our things are in order, you know, people that are very hyper intentional about doing things like that, like how you and I are, I still experience burnout. You know, and it wasn't until I met you and we started having these conversations about burnout that I talk about burnout. You know, as a career coach, I talk about that because one of the challenges that people are experiencing when they come to me is that they're feeling burnt out in their job. The reasons why they might come to me for burnout are different than the reasons why they come to you. Burnout is just an indication that I have fallen out of love with my career and I don't want to do this career anymore. Or I need to make a pivot in my career and I don't know what that should be. Help me figure it out. And once I do, then, you know, and I can make some changes now to help me feel better, but I'm not a burnout specialist the way that you are, right? So although I have talked about burnout as a symptom to career dissatisfaction, it wasn't until I met you and we started talking about burnout in a more comprehensive way that I realized the many faces of burnout and how like elusive, insidious, sneaky, you know, all the things, mysterious, even mysterious maybe to me or to other people, but not so mysterious to you, because you're an expert in burnout, which I think is fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, you've opened my eyes to a new world, you know, and I'm just thankful to have a resource like you so that if people think it's their career, but it's really not, because everything else is falling apart and the root cause of it isn't their job or their career, I'm thankful to have a resource like you that I can just pull out of my back pocket and say, you know what? There's somebody that might be better able to serve you than me, because this is bigger than just your career. This is something else.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for you for that.
Thank you for you. Yeah. So tell us more about exactly like who you help, how you help. I mean, we heard your passion. I love that. But just for our viewers who, like you said, may be meeting us for the first time, you want to share like kind of a little bit of your background or your
Yeah,
just what your why is, or
sure. Yeah, I help seasoned professionals who are mid-career and they have been in their career doing the thing more than 10, 15 years, right? And perhaps that career served them in the beginning when they were young professionals. And perhaps it's a career that they just fell into. Maybe it's a career that they chose. But for whatever reason, over the years, they have just decided, you know what? I can better utilize my skills in another way. I just don't know what that way is. I don't know what that could look like for me, because I have been doing this same thing for 10, 15, 20 years. And my identity is so intertwined with this career track that I cannot fathom how I could take my skills, experiences, my talents, how can I package all that up and apply it in a different way that isn't this? Yeah. And how can I apply that in a different way without having to start from scratch all over again? Because I have financial responsibilities. Like, I cannot afford to take a step back in my pay. So my job is to help people find their zone of genius let's figure out what your behavioral style is. Let's figure out how your brain works. Let's figure out where you really excel, where you thrive, and not only that, but where you love to excel and thrive, right? Like, what really is it that turns you on? What lights you up? Let's find what that is. Let's find some careers that align with that, where you could do that, and all of the skills and experiences that you have are transferable skills. Let's align it to that. Retell your professional story. Like, let's recreate your professional brand so that when you put it out there on your LinkedIn or on your resume, it really sings to your employers of choice about why they need to, it behooves them to have a conversation with you or to have an interview with you. So that's what I help people do. I help them when they're navigating a career crossroads. I help them to navigate that quickly and easily, and then excel, like rise in that direction. So my goal with my clients, with all of my clients, is to make a career pivot, whatever that pivot is that's right for them. Let's find what's right for you, and then let's take your career up a level. In that pivot, it's not just like a like a lateral change. It's a step up, but it's a step up in the right direction. And ultimately, the goal is that step up in the right direction makes you more money. It gives you more freedom so that you can have a better work-life balance, so you can better enjoy your life and be more fulfilled in your work. So that's what I help people do. My why. It's such a big story. But I want to try to abbreviate it as much as possible. But ultimately, like I said, I'm a career-oriented person. I worked really hard, and I wouldn't take that back, but I gave a little too much of myself. I was in a situation for a long time that wasn't serving me. I was rising. I was like climbing the corporate ladder when I was a corporate employee, but I wasn't necessarily climbing in the right direction. And I ended up getting really sick. I got diagnosed with a rare cancer. I thought I was going to die. The doctors didn't know how long I had to live, if I had 2 weeks or 2 years. And that really, man, that was a wake-up call. That made life and my priorities totally come into perspective for me. And I realized that my life was just completely out of balance. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was sucked into work mode, which I know is my tendency to do. I mean, that's still something that I have to be mindful of, like we were talking about earlier on this call. But I was not mindful of it then. And I got really sick. And so I had to have a lot of surgeries, and I had a lot of recovery time from those surgeries to think about what was I going to do with my life. More specifically, what was I going to do about my career? Because I knew that I wasn't happy there. I had more to give. I had more to do, but I wanted to do it my way. And I didn't want to do it within the confines of the corporate culture anymore. So when I was well enough, I stepped out and I started my own business, which has now become 2 businesses that I'm running and loving and growing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. It just really brought into focus how precious and fragile life is. Nobody expects to get a cancer diagnosis. Nobody. No. You don't expect that. Mm-mm. And I got it. And it was like a curveball at a left field right to my face. Like nose glasses broken. And I didn't even see it coming. Yeah. And it was a wake-up call. Yeah. So we don't have to wait for that wake-up call to happen. We can notice the signs now. We can be honest with ourselves, and it is possible to make a change. I help people do that every single day. I see people do it every single day. It's possible. It's possible to make a change. We don't have to let our career suck the life out of us. We just don't. Bottom line.
That's right.
So that's my why. What about you? Why? What about you? I don't think I've ever heard your why.
Well, before I share my why, I want to just say that I know that you and I, we have such conviction. And when we refer people, when we work with people, when we really value people, it's because we believe in them to such a level that is unwavering. And you are a person that I have witnessed the magic that you've created and had just evolve in people's lives. I know the heart that you have behind the work that you do. And forever, you'll only be the only career coach I've ever shared with people. And who I ever will. And it's not to say that there is no other career coach that is not as good as, or maybe even potentially better in a different way. But you're a person who I know your wisdom. You have seen me shake in my, like, what am I doing? And you have been so wonderful and beautiful with the wisdom that you've spoken into my soul to be like, let's just talk about this. Let's talk through it. And I know just the perspective, the ideas that you bring are so, there's no one else like you. There's no other career coach that I've ever seen with the heart that's yours. And so you are a person who, number one, I'm so grateful for. You are this beautiful earth angel that's helped people in their darkest moments as well, because I know that a lot of times, like you said, and this is what I know from talking with you, but also just have witnessed it myself. People do, they tie their identity to their job. And if they feel that miserable in their job, then they're that miserable in their identity. And that can also be really dangerous for a person. And so I've seen you break people out of their shells and I think save them in a lot of ways. And I'm sure they've told you that as well. And if not, then they'll realize it, after a year or so. But I just wanted you to know that I'm so grateful for you and that you're the one person that every time I refer you, I do it with unwavering faith that I know if they choose to work with you, that you will take care of them and you will walk them through this journey and they will come out better for it with you because of you. And that I don't have to ever worry like, hey, like, did they ever come to you? Because number one, that's just not how I roll. But number two, I trust you and I know your heart and I know the impact that you make on people. So I'm so grateful that you're the person in this industry doing the work. And like I said, I know there are other career coaches out there, but you'll always be the one that I refer because I know your heart, I know your passion and your story, and I've seen the impact and change you've had for people. And so I think we talked about there was this person, right, that a while back was like, you always refer her on this one platform we were on. And I said, yeah, I do. And get used to it because I know for a fact the magic that she works and I know what she can do for people. So I'm not going to stop referring her because you don't like it. I mean, I said it with grace, but do you know what I mean? Like, no one can talk me out of referring you because I believe in you. I've seen the work you do and you are changing this world for the better because I think we've also talked about that there was this guy, or I saw a post one time that said, there's no such thing as work-life balance. Even back then, before I knew you, I was like, nah, that's not true. And so I love that you're also reminding people it is attainable. You can live that life. And it doesn't mean that you take a monetary cut. You actually get more and you also get more out of life, not just the more, pay, but more happiness, more joy, more fulfillment. So I'm grateful for you being in this space. And I'm so, so grateful that our paths crossed about a year ago.
I am too. I am too. Thank you so much for all of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate because even though I didn't know that career coaching was my calling, 20 years ago when I first started my career, I have been career coaching that whole entire time. Like it entered my path, not from my choosing, but the universe just kind of made that happen. So over these 20 years of helping people with their professional development, my background in psychology and counseling and the time that I spent there with career development, up until this point where, like I said, when I was laying in that bed, in my recovery bed, and like, what do I want to do? I pulled out my toolkit and put together a process for me to figure out what I wanted to do with my career. And I found my calling without question. Like, this is what I was born to do. Like, I am meant to be doing this. Career coach, helping people with their career so that they can make the most of this life that we get to live, right? So I was fortunate that I have tools and experience, and like, it's always been a part of my career in one way, shape, or form. But now I get to just do that, and that's the beautiful thing of having your own business too, because I know I talk to a lot of people that are thinking about it. And I talk to people that have already done it. They took the plunge, they stepped out on their own, they hung their shingle, but they're not really sure what they want to do with their business, right? Like, what value can I really give to people? I know that I would like to be a coach of some sort, but I'm not really sure, what kind. The truth is that, of course, there's a way to figure that out, right? Like, I figured out a replicable way of helping people to figure that out. But the answer lives inside of each one of us. It really does. It lives inside of each one of us. And sometimes people need help figuring that out. Sometimes they don't, but when they don't, it's because they've hit the pause button for a minute. Like, they gave themselves a good chunk of time to just be with themselves and think about what do I really want? Where do I really shine? What is it that people come to me for? That's what started this whole thing for me in the first place, was asking myself that question. What do people come to me for? I didn't write it down on paper, or plot it out or anything like that, but it took me all of 5 seconds to answer that question. What are people coming to me for? They come to me to talk about their career. And then I was like, wait a minute. But then I did these things and I was like, bullseye, nailed it. Yeah, it's that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the beautiful thing about having our own business, because I know that people, like, that scares people sometimes, because it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of pressure. It's like sink or swim. That whole responsibility is on your shoulders as a solopreneur, which is the way that most of us start out. You're a one-person band. You're doing all the things, and that's a lot of pressure for people, especially if they don't know what they really want to be doing, right? And it can be a lot, and that's how we burn ourselves out, trying to do all of the things without real focus, and then we spin our wheels into the mud, and then we stagnate, and then we go, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go and apply for jobs again.
Right.
We really need to give ourselves the time to be with ourselves. And ask ourselves, what do we really want from this life? And what do I want to be? What kind of contribution do I want to make in the world?
Right. That's right.
And 4-day weekends are a great way to start that.
That's right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, well, I know you asked me about my why, and I'll say it real quick, and then we can probably wrap up, since we're almost, I think, a little past an hour. I think we'll just probably call this one like intro, so that if people just want to find out more about us, they can know that this was a little bit of an off, usually we talk more about how we did work, what we did, what we tried, what was different, what we've learned, just all that stuff. But since this is our first one, I think it's important to take time to honor who you are and how you work in the world, and likewise for myself, so that people can feel like, are they people that we can relate to or not, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, right? No, like, and trust, right?
Yeah.
So this is who we are. But I'll try and make it really quick. But my why is, and I will say, one of my favorite things about you and I, and why I think that this was such a beautiful time for us to have this channel, create this conversation, is because you and I both come from similar but different, backgrounds with faith and how we operate on that level. But it's such a beautiful, loving space of I hear what you're saying and I accept what you're saying. And likewise, you can hear what I'm saying and accept what I'm saying. But it's not like it's just who we are and we just have love for each other. And that's where we're at. And that's what the world needs more of, right? Um, so why I said that is because I know when you talk in terms of the power that you work with, it's the universe and intuition and like a higher calling, but it's the universe is what a lot you feel like you're very in line with, and that's beautiful and wonderful. And so why I'm saying this is that my story, my why, I don't know if I ever did tell you this, but a few years back, my niece lost her husband unexpectedly. He passed away and he was young. Yeah, I think I did share this with you, right? And then like 5 days later, my mother-in-law passed away. And neither were expected, neither could have been anticipated. And it was just awful. And my niece's in-laws are from Maine. And so they were here and they were just mourning. I mean, and he was young. I think he would have been 29. And so they were out here, and my husband and I, we're like we host everything. So we're the safe haven. Not that any other home is unsafe, but we're just the more central, and we have the larger space to host. And so we just do. And so everybody was here, and then the in-laws would go to their hotels and sleep, and then come back the next day, and we'd cook, and I would clean in the morning and all these things, and get ready to mourn again and try and figure out how to create, just navigate the horrific time, and then just try to find how to live again, right? And then when my mother-in-law passed away, that was a whole nother level of like, oh my gosh. And my husband, all my in-laws are in Georgia, so he had to go back to Georgia. And the last day that the in-laws from Maine were here, that morning my husband Jay had to go to Georgia. And so, but as you know, we've got kids and dogs, and so the house gets really messy. And when you've got traffic, lots of dirt comes in. And I'm just a clean person, just in general. Every day I clean. And so I was mopping or getting ready to sweep and mop and get ready for the next round of like them coming back and have, food and everything, and just try to say, we love you. And they were going to go back to Maine, but they were leaving the next morning. But Jay had to leave that early Sunday morning. So it was just me. And it was like the boys and the dogs. And I just remember I was sweeping, trying to get ready to like clean the house and just get ready for the next wave of entertainment, not entertainment, but you know what I'm saying? Hosting. And, like the boys were being quiet. They weren't fighting. The dogs weren't like playing around. The house was like really quiet. And I could see the boys were just on the couch, the dogs were laying on the floor, and I'm like in the kitchen sweeping. And all of a sudden I had this moment where I was like, I'm freaking out. Like there is just so many emotions going on right now that like, I don't even know what to do. And by this time it was days of like hosting, cleaning, mourning. It was like, you kept getting like hit, like, holy, there's another thing that happened that you just could not expect, And so all these emotions were happening, and we never really had a reprieve because it was just, there was so much going on. And I just remember this last day, I was like just sweeping, and I had this moment, like this like storm was happening inside, and it was separate. It was different. I could tell that it was different from mourning, because the mourning, there's a feeling to that. But this other feeling of like energy, the storm inside was like different, to where it was like almost taking the wind out from my breath. It wasn't a panic attack. It wasn't anxiety. I've heard kind of how those things feel. And I know that's not what it was, because it wasn't like my heart was racing and I couldn't catch my breath, but it was more like, I don't know, like I was just breaking, And I just was like, what is happening? And I know that I'm religious. And so I just really, I heard the Holy Spirit say, you're so burned out at this point in time. Like you don't really have a lot more. Like this is what burnout is. And I was like, well, who can I find to help me? Like, who is there I can turn to that can help me with this? Because like, this is paralyzing. Right. And like I couldn't even sweep. Come on, sweeping's just like, but it stops you in its tracks. And so I was just like, I wish there was someone to help me. And I just really feel like the Lord was like, that's because you need to help people like this. There aren't a lot of people who can help in this space. So you need to be the one to start working in this space and start being that burnout professional and then it was just like this whole epiphany of like, this is how men and women feel who live and work and they're like CEOs, vice presidents, presidents, owners of businesses. Anyone can go through burnout. If we're working in such a state with such high demand where we feel like the stakes are so big, like we're the breadwinners or we're the people that have to keep it together or are supposed to look like a certain way because of their title in their company or what have you, they're just suffering inside. And it was just this big epiphany, like this is what, and I really feel like the Holy Spirit was like, this is what God was like, you need to do this. This is where you need to shine your light here. And this is where you work. And I was like, okay. And I did. I mean, also have a background in psychology. I was working with lots of different people, different communities, and none of it was ever burnout focused, although burnout was something I've always helped people with because that's a natural byproduct of life, right? Um, but as soon as I kind of put that title on my specialty, it was like the door opened and people were like, oh my gosh, like I'm so glad that you're here. And I bet you're so busy. I mean, it's everywhere. And I really think the pandemic really helped people understand that burnout happens with everyone. There is no shame in it. It's okay to feel that way. It's what we do with it that makes the difference. It's how we handle it that makes the difference. And so my why is that I really feel like that. And at the end of the day, I really feel like the worst case scenario. I mean, I have worked with people. My clients have said to me, a few of them have said to me, you saved my life. And I kind of laugh about it. Like when they tell me, and they always, every time they'll be like, no, I'm not joking. Like, I'm not saying that lightly to you. Because the thoughts start to turn against ourselves when we feel like we're the only ones, or we feel like we can't, or we shouldn't, or because, you're not supposed to look a certain way. If you could just get through the next meeting, if you can just complete the next project, then the break will come. But the break never comes because it's so much more than that. And then people start to feel like, they start to self-medicate. They start to have very dark thoughts. And so anyway, that's my why, is that I understand this world. We all go through burnout and the pain that it can cause inside, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's like, and I work with people from all walks of life. It's not like I've worked with literally all walks of life. I mean, tons of different, religions and perspectives and ways of life, because burnout hits all of us, all of us. So I want to help as many as I can. And that's my why. And then also I just want to be able to show my kids and like, you can do anything. If you're in alignment, if you're living with your vocation, if you're walking with what you are meant to do in this world, even if it seems crazy or unattainable, you can do it. You can do anything. And it's just a matter of just showing up and in agreement and just saying, okay, right? So that's my why, just helping people, because the other side of burnout is so dark and lonely and scary. I don't ever want anyone to feel that way, ever. So.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here, Anna, and that you're doing this wonderful work with people that really need you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's important work. And I'm glad that you had that experience, while you were sweeping and you, you heard your calling and you said yes to it and did it. I thank you, and all of the people that you've worked with, I know, thank you. And all of the people that you will work with, thank you too.
Thank you. And likewise, I know, like I said, you change lives as well. I mean, that's why I think you and I work so well together, because a lot of our clients have similar roots that we need to help them with, but different triggers, right? That are going to give them the different reaction and the different accomplishments that they need. Yeah. But I love it because you and I work in the same emotional space with people where it's like we love them through whatever.
A transformation,
Yeah.
because our work is transformational. It's not transactional.
That's right. That's right.
It's not like a here, do this, call me in the morning, and it's temporary. What they get with us is something that truly changes their life. After they're done working with us, they take all of this with them and it continues to serve them. They continue to build on it.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's why you and I get to work in this space so freely too, because we don't try to control the people and say like, well, I'm only going to give you this little bit of help, so you always have to come back to me. No, we want to see them grow and fly and thrive and be like, live your life and share what we've shown you with others.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we did pretty good for our first episode. What do you think?
Yeah. Do you want to stop recording or should we?
I think we're good. Well, thanks everyone for hanging with us on this inaugural recording of Coach to Coach Real Talk. So Anna and I are going to make it a habit to record our weekly meetings and share them with you so that you can get to experience with two coaches what it's like in real time to work through the twists and turns of growing your business, your coaching business from scratch, because it is incredibly satisfying and fulfilling to have your own business. But it's also the most difficult thing that you'll ever do in your career. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some hard things that we have to navigate. And so Anna and I come together every week. We started off being accountability buddies for a coaching program that we're in. And our friendship has just blossomed into this beautiful, I don't even have the right words for it, but it's this beautifully symbiotic relationship where we just lift each other up, we support each other, we learn from each other, we brainstorm with each other, use each other as a sounding board for a lot of really important things. We find new ideas to explore together, and we're just growing together. So thank you for joining us on this first conversation. So many more to come. So if you're looking at growing your business and you want to listen in on some conversations that you very well could relate to, because everybody runs into the same kind of challenges when they're trying to grow their coaching business, and that's what Anna and I are talking about every week. So if you want to be part of those conversations, tune in. We invite you to. And yeah, thanks again for being here with us. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.